Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Today's story will be a fairly recent story that would happen in 2021 that would involve 13-year-old cheerleader Tristyn Bailey. The results of this mystery would have more questions than answers, and I'm going to give a special disclaimer out. Just be prepared to have your tissues out, as this is a very heartbreaking case. But without further ado, let's get into our story. And as I just said, this story would involve 13-year-old Tristyn Bailey, who was born in Singapore on January 18th, 2008. She would be born to parents Stacy and Forrest Bailey and would be the youngest of 5 children. And it's said that Tristyn and her family would live in Singapore till Tristyn was about 4 years old and would move to St. Johns County, which would be in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, our story will begin on May 9th, 2021, which would be on a Sunday on Mother's Day. And our story begins at 9 a.m. Now, on this particular Mother's Day, the Bailey family had decided to plan a breakfast for Stacy, the mother. So everyone in the family would wake up super early to start breakfast at 9 a.m. That would be, of course, everyone but Tristyn. But the family didn't really worry about it too much, as it was a Sunday and it had been the weekend, and they would decide, because Tristyn is a cheerleader, she had a very hectic schedule, so they would let Tristyn sleep in. It should also be noted that the only people in the house at this time was Stacy the mother, Forrest the father, and Tristyn's older sister Alexis. It is said that Brittany, the eldest, would actually contact the family and say she could not make it to this breakfast for Mother's Day, as she was in college and was really busy and couldn't attend that year. This was typically kind of tradition that the Bailey family had every year on Mother's Day. But the family would start getting worried around 9:45 a.m. as Tristyn still had not come out to the kitchen to actually help out with the breakfast. So Tristyn's sister Alexis would actually walk over to her bedroom and begin knocking on the door. She wouldn't get an answer, so she would knock again, and after several attempts of getting nothing, she would start calling out to her sister Tristyn. And again would be the same as before, there was no answer. Eventually Alexis would actually open the door to kind of wake her sister up, but when she opened the door, she would be shocked to find that Tristyn wasn't even in her room. And even stranger still, the bed had looked as if she hadn't even slept in it all night. And this would be roughly around 10 a.m. So Alexis, being a concerned sister, would actually go to the kitchen and tell Stacy and Forrest that Tristyn was not in her room. So her parents would actually go and try to text and call Tristyn, but they wouldn't get an answer. And even stranger still, when they would try to call, it would go directly to voicemail, so they knew that either her phone was completely turned off or it was completely out of battery. Forrest would immediately get on his computer and he would make several attempts to try to find Tristyn. While he was doing this, Stacy and Alexis would actually go outside the house and begin calling out to their sister. Now, in the beginning of Forrest looking for his daughter, the first thing he would do is he would get on his computer and he would try to locate Tristyn's phone, as they had a family plan, so he would just try to look on, find her iPhone. But stranger still, Tristyn had that turned off. But he would notice something when he would look into their family plan. He would ask his daughter Alexis, when was the last time you saw Tristyn? And Alexis would tell Forrest that the last time she had saw Tristyn was around midnight when everyone was going to bed. And he would check the phone records and see that Tristyn actually got a text message at 11 p.m., an hour before everyone had went to bed. But it would be something very strange about this text message. This text message would have an area code which would come from Orlando, Florida. And being that they lived in St. Johns County, which is in Jacksonville, this would be very strange for Forrest, as Orlando, Florida is roughly about 2 hours from Jacksonville. So Forrest would still continue his search looking for his daughter. Now, the Bailey family also had an app on their phone called Life 360, which is a tracking device to actually keep in touch with the family and kind of see where the family is going. A very beneficial app for parents who have kids that have cell phones to kind of keep in touch where their kids are. But like before, with all the other checkings on seeing where Tristyn was, she had that app turned off. Forrest would go on the next app that he knew his daughter regularly used, as the whole family used, and that was the app Snapchat. But again, she had that app completely turned off. And to be perfectly honest, Tristyn had every single app on her phone on social media turned off. So to say that Forrest was getting extremely worried is an extreme understatement. And being very worried because he could not find his daughter, he would quickly log into the app Facebook. And he would start making a post telling everyone that he's looking for Tristyn and the family could not find their daughter. Now, while Forrest was going on social media trying to find anyone that knew where Tristyn was, Stacy would actually call 911 to report her daughter missing. And as protocol, the dispatcher would ask Stacy to check every room before they would send the police over, to which Stacy would tell the dispatcher that they had went through every option looking for their daughter before calling 911. They would even tell the dispatcher that not only had they checked all her social medias and checked all of the phones, but they would also check every single room, even going outside, and Tristyn was not there. She would also tell the dispatcher that she had noticed that Tristyn was acting a little standoffish, but other than that, she wasn't acting any different. She would also tell the dispatcher that she didn't think that Tristyn had a boyfriend at the time, as she was only in the 7th grade and 13 years old. So her mother, Stacy, did not think that Tristyn had run away with a boy or anything like that. She would tell the dispatcher that she did believe that her daughter was becoming very exhausted, as she had a very hectic school schedule, where not only was she in one cheerleading squad, but she would also be in 3 cheerleading squads. So to say that she had a very hectic school schedule is quite an understatement. So the dispatchers would actually send 2 police deputies over to the Bailey home to do some more investigation. When the police arrived, Stacy would tell police what had happened leading up to their daughter missing. So when the police arrived, they would try to collect as much investigation or information that they could find trying to find Tristyn. And Stacy would tell the cops anything leading up to her disappearance. She would tell the police that on that Friday, she had actually taken Tristyn to meet some friends at a food truck. Stacy would also tell the police that on that Saturday, the family would go out to a restaurant and would not return home till about 11:45 p.m. But Stacy would tell the police that upon going home at 11:45, that Tristyn had not acted out of pocket in any way and haven't given the impression that something was wrong. The police would actually go around the community and start talking to all of Tristyn's friends from school. And they would quickly find out that Tristyn had in fact snuck out of her parents' house around midnight that night and had snuck out to meet with a couple friends. To be precise, Tristyn Bailey had snuck out to hang out with 2 boys from school, Daffy Absher and Aiden Fucci. And it was said that after Tristyn would get the text message at 11 p.m. about hanging out, and around the time that Alexis had last seen Tristyn after midnight, it's after this time that Tristyn would actually sneak out of her house to go hang out with these friends. But she would have to hide in the bushes and wait for a certain time, because Daffy Absher was actually grounded at the time, and his parents was not letting any friends over. And they would actually have to text Tristyn to kind of give her directions on how to sneak past the security cameras. But the police would learn from this investigation some very questionable things that would give more questions than answers.